going to make what's called in Greek Horta, and it's a collection of whatever's green and growing in the garden that is young and succulent and edible. And most of the things that come up are edible. Sow thistle is nice and just slightly bitter. Bitter greens are really good for you. We don't, in our culture, eat enough bitter greens. So that's one we'll be getting. But we've got milk thistle and sow thistle, that's S-O-W. And I think the one that has the darker stem in the middle, like that purpley stem, I think this is milk thistle, and it's yummy. So we're just going to take the whole central part of that. Think about it's called milk thistle because it gets that white sap, and it's a nice bitter herb too. We won't necessarily use the stem, but it's it keeps them fresher while you're picking if you take the whole stem part of it. This is chickweed, and chickweed I've just finally had identified, so I know for sure this is chickweed. And we're just going to take a whole, it grows everywhere at the moment. This is in Adelaide winter. So I'm just going to take a whole big handful of it, get rid of the pea straw as much as possible, but we'll be washing all of this. And what I learnt recently is chickweed, you can tell because it just has a single line of very small hairs, which was described to me like a mohawk, and it's only on one part of the stem, so that's a good way to tell it. And then it has these little flowers, but I actually don't see it flowering very often, so it's just this very lush stuff that grows up everywhere in winter. We're going to pick some of these really lush dandelions and more of this thistle, which it would be sow thistle, let's say. So once again, just picking from the middle of the plant so you get not just the leaves but the stem. And like we said, that just helps it stay fresh while you're doing all this picking in the sun. And then dandelion is pretty recognisable. It's got that sawtooth and raggedy look to it. And of course, beautiful flowers. And I'm going to pick some of the flower heads to put in. There's quite a few, and I don't really want that many dandelions in the garden. And then we'll pick some of the inner leaves here. And of course, dandelions are the ones which give you those classic ball seed heads. That's an old one there. So now I'm just going to bulk out what we've got with a big pick around the garden. So mint. Mint has gone mad in the winter. Some thyme. Just pick off a couple of long stems. Really, I'm just going to do a big harvest of rocket because it's growing everywhere, self-sown. Then there's thistle. So this is the pile of weeds we've got here. It actually doesn't look all that big to me, but it probably is. It'll be a big saucepanful. And I've just laid out an example of most of what we've got. So here, this is dandelion. This is nice and young dandelion, and this is how the leaves go when they get older. Here are some dandelion heads. And then here, I think that's a dandelion, but here we've got a thistle. No, that's dandelion. Here we have thistle. So it's got a, this is the one with the green stem, sow thistle. Here is the one with the coloured stem, and that's milk thistle. Then we've got the thing that tastes like mustard, which I don't really know what it is, but it's delicious. That's just thyme. That's mint. Here we've got mizuna, which is that purple lettucey type thing. That's got a nice mustard taste. This is chickweed, I'm sure it looks familiar to everyone. It seems to come up at this time of year when it's really wet. And here we have spinach with escargot, or snails, which will be taken off. But that just shows that it's not sprayed and the snails don't mind. So it's good to give them a good rinse. That way as well, they end up with water in them. So when you put them in the pot to cook, you don't really need to add any water because the water within the plant and the water clinging to it is sufficient. I usually put in a bit of olive oil at the bottom, and then as I'm adding the greens, I'll sort of whack in a bit more oil as I go. And really they must take all of 5 minutes to cook. So once you've done that, you can freeze it like it is. Because you've made a lot, you've got some for later. You can also bake it into a pie. You can make omelettes with it for tartar. You can just chop it up and put olive oil and good quality vinegar, whatever sort of vinegar you like, or lemon juice, and have it as a salad. And then really whatever takes your fancies apart from that. There'll be liquid left, which is delicious. Don't pour it down the sink. Just put it in a glass and bon appetit, as they say.